Matters in the agenda consist of those items that are reasonably anticipated by the chair to be discussed. Not all items listed may be discussed, and other items not listed, such as urgent business not available at the time of posting, may also be brought up for discussion in accordance with the applicable laws. Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 20-F. Requires anyone that intends to record any portion of a public meeting by audio, video, or both to notify the chair at the beginning of the meeting. We are being recorded, as you know. Anybody else recording? Any agenda?
I got next one.
I'll just look at it. Thank you.
Okay. So let's, well, meantime, let's begin. Previous minutes from the June, July, and 27th minutes. Does anybody need a copy to review that?
I would like to make a motion not to read the minutes.
Motion made. Anybody want a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, minutes are accepted without having to read them. Okay, going on to the new member discussion, we do have a Cody Thibault, who is not able to make it tonight. I believe you could probably elaborate on that, who has been appointed by the selectmen as well to the Bell Committee.
Cody was a student of Oxford School, and also he's a welder, and I think he would be a good asset to the Bell Committee in case we need any fabrication of metal. And he's a young man, and he's a nice guy too.
Well, it's good to have him and people thinking about that.
Did he go to Oxford School?
Yes, he did. He's not here today because he has a board meeting with Old Rochester, I believe. He's on the board for the welders over there.
Oh, okay.
And they only need catering, so he couldn't make it tonight. But he was appointed Monday.
Oh, good.
And that's that.
Anybody else? Okay, moving on. Rogers Bell, we have not met since the removal of the Rogers Bell, but just to give an update that it was taken out without any injuries to the building or anything, or the bell, and it is in storage right now, and it's great. And since we now have the welder on board, we can have him maybe take a look at the fabrication part of the metal for the bell. But right now, I have no other plans unless anybody else has anything they want to input as far as the bell.
What is the size of that bell? Is it bigger than the other one, or?
Correct. It's 980 pounds.
Oh, okay.
I believe it's about 36 or
36 at the base.
Yeah, I believe it was about 36. But we do want to thank A1 Crane and Keith Sylvia Construction, who did all the work and provided the services. And they, as we all know, it was, I think, 100 degrees that day plus, and they pulled through and persevered, and everything went well. So big congrats to those folks for pulling that off. Going on to the Revere Bell update or status. I believe maybe Nils could talk on his meeting he had with Wayne on that. Our original plan was to put the bell in the town hall opposite the POW MIA shed and put it as a temporary display.
Right, and Wayne has, after going back to him again, Wayne has said that the bell is a little too heavy for that location. He doesn't, Wayne doesn't feel very comfortable with having that bell placed there. So we're back to the drawing board to find another location for the bell. The purpose for putting the bell in the town hall at that time was just so people could view the bell and see what it looked like, who wasn't present the day it was removed. And it would have been open to people to see instead of keeping it in storage. So we are off to find another location. Even if it's a temporary location for the time being, I think we should get the bell out of storage myself and, put out in view of the people.
I think it still has to be, Lee Baumgartner, I still think it has to be inside. It can't be in and outside.
Well, what we'll do is schedule for our next meeting, maybe just to review Bell and locations as of, since we're back to the drawing board, and we'll revisit what we looked at previously.
Have you limited the number of locations where you put because that was the original purpose, was to find a spot for it, for a permanent site? I mean, have you come to an agreement on location that you would recommend to the select board?
No, not at this point. We haven't. Originally, we had this hope to put it in the town hall just as a temporary point to eventually someday when we create something. But we don't have anything as far as a permanent location. We haven't discussed or picked anything like that as far as.
Because I thought that was the main purpose of it, was to find a location to put the bell either into a structure or some type of, some way of displaying it permanently.
Correct. We intend on doing that, and we were sidetracked by the Rogers bill, trying to save that, which pushed everything aside. And again, temporary solution, at least in the meantime, was to get it out in public so that in the town hall is the most safest instant location that it could easily be put at. But now, we still have to find and come up with a permanent solution for it, and as to where it would end up. So we'll need to dedicate a lot of time to go back to figure out what everybody thinks with our locations that we picked.
Can we put it on the agenda for next meeting to have that figured out, or spend more time on that, not just? Perfect.
Well, it would be good, since it's the first everybody's actually hearing that it can't go in the town hall, that we use this meeting to start thinking by the next meeting some suggestions and ideas, and actually move forward with this and start coming up with something concrete.
Does it have to go in a public building or can it go in a private building?
Well, I will assume automatically it is a town-owned, so it has to go in a public building, public access. You're gonna run into, if you put it in a private building, who's gonna be liable for it, whose insurance is gonna cover it, who's gonna protect it. But it's something we can ask the town administrator what his opinion
I mean,
and.
you're really limited to public buildings where it could go, and then it really doesn't have as much time as far as access for the public to see, because the public buildings are always closed on the weekends. All the schools would be closed, all the town offices would be closed. You'd have private buildings would be opened up to public to see it more than anywhere else.
Well, again, we'll put it on for the next meeting, and we'll, any of those questions that we have, we'll ask Mark Reese in the meantime for some guidance as far as if it is in a public versus private, or if it even could go in private. And that will certainly scale one, or open up avenues, whether it can or cannot. That's good. Anybody else?
Have you ruled out having it outdoors, but in a constructed enclosure?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Have you ruled out having it outside, but in an enclosure with surrounded by?
No, we haven't ruled anything. We haven't ruled anything from A to Z. We ruled locations out. Some of them, as we know, we went through every piece of town-owned land, inside and out, and building. And some of the items, West Island and the marshes, obviously, you could rule all that type of stuff right out. The little island across by Kmart, stuff like that is instantly off. And that's where we narrowed it down, and we'll go back to the board and drawing and see what we think.
We have a layout of all the town-owned properties that will be going through again, to verify where the best location, the
You
safest
guys get a
location.
copy of some, that, just to see where the properties you look at are.
Yes, we can give you a copy. And your name was?
Robert Manch,
Okay.
precinct 3.
If you want to give me your email, we can certainly scan and email it, or we can make a copy, or I can email it. Somebody,
Yeah, I'll give you my info.
so
it's proper to bring it up now or not, but the bell has to be sent out to be cleaned, for one thing, before we do anything with it. And then I spoke with the building inspector, and he did say we cannot put the bell in the town hall for the reason he thought it was too heavy. But we discussed the matter, and he suggested that if we wanted to get an engineer or whatever you want for that job, to look at the building to see whether it can take the weight or not, as long as we get the okay from Mr. Reese to go ahead and do that. So I think maybe we could ask him permission to proceed with that idea in hand, so we can then, once we get the bell clean, it can be brought back, and if they say yes, it will take the weight, we can store it in the town hall as a temporary measure. And I think that would give us time enough to decide on whether it stays in the town hall or whether it will go out on the lawn or somewhere
Down the road, exactly.
on the road.
Was it Wayne that said to get an engineering structure? Did Wayne say that?
Did Wayne tell you that? Wayne said it, right?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
the building inspector, yeah.
What is the weight of it?
It's been all together with the base that P. Sylvia is designing to hold it, it would run about maybe 900 pounds, 950.
And once again, the town hall was a temporary.
Yeah, no, I
Temporary,
understand,
no,
it's just
temporary, we weren't saying just plop it in and leave it in there forever, it's like a temporary, so we could just get it out.
like for a month or so.
Absolutely, yeah, until we figure out if we can raise money to put it outside or whatever we
I
decide.
think you can rule out schools because of the.
You can't go inside.
You can never get it in schools.
That's what I mean, at this point, our whole goal was maybe to build some type of structure or something. We're gonna have to move forward with that goal and really start narrowing it down for our proceeding. But it's spaced out over a 5-foot square.
How often my yard is it? I don't think it'll pass muster.
Get it out of my cellar.
Just to help you guys out.
May I suggest that I get in touch with Mr. Reese for the permission to go ahead, to have someone come in to check out the structure?
Well, it's up to the board here, but I will be there with you if that's the case as well.
Good.
I think it's a good idea.
The problem is that, obviously that's gonna be a cost, and you don't have money for that. But I think instead of focusing on that, you ought to really focus on the ultimate responsibility of finding a location to house the bell permanently instead of trying to do it, because the weight is a problem, and that structurally, we don't know how much that location, how the structure is underneath it, to carry that, because it's about 1,000 pounds that you're looking at in a small area, and that's one of the reasons. But I think if we're worried about finding a location for now, we ought to be more concerned about finding a permanent location, a location to put it ultimately, and just let it go at that, because the longer we wait, the longer, it's gonna take. And, I think you're looking at the wrong way.
Well, we're gonna put this all on the next meeting agenda anyways and do that as one topic, so we can devote the whole meeting to moving ahead with that project.
We don't even know how much an engineer is gonna cost or the price. I think it's still smart to go forward and just get a cost and have them still look at it.
Well, we'll discuss with
Yeah.
Mr. Reese and Wayne, and then we also have some engineering firms that are willing to do it, provide the services, so we're still looking at no cost. So we can still explore the avenue as a quick temporary fix, but either way, we still do need to find a long-term solution, whatever
Absolutely.
that may be, which is the ultimate will of what this committee informed part of their task to do is to find a permanent location. Anybody else? So, looking for a permanent location. Or proceed, we've always been looking for one, I'll just say we'll proceed to try to find that. Okay. The Oxford Cupola. As we know, we have Keith Sylvia is doing all the work on the cupola. He's doing all the mill work. We'll need some volunteers to help scrape and paint, which I'm sure we can get. There is an engineering company that provided the services, saying how the cupola will be put back and the details with that. He's worked with Keith before, and that part's all set. So as far as structure-wise, it will be a structured, sound building. We have the ability to bring it back up, secure it back up, and restore the skyline. There are some questions as far as was discussed with whether or not a bell will be put back into the cupola or not. I received this afternoon from Mark Reese and from Stratford, if anybody wants a copy of the email, they're free here. Anybody wants it? Basically, Stratford said they do not wish to have a bell in the cupola. It will pose a structural and maintenance issues, and then they thanked us for inquiring as to,
Anything else?
they had inquired as far as the status of what we talked about with a bell, and we had said that if we had a bell at the time when we built the cupola, we would like to put one in there and bring it all back up and secure it. And of course, we had to get Stratford's approval as far as historical and what, since the purchase and sale has been signed, and eventually the town used to have a building through town member voting. So, during the asking of Stratford with the engineering plans about the bell, this was their response as far as that goes. If anybody wants a copy of the engineering plan, there's a copy here as well. Wish for a copy? We will, probably by Tuesday or so, Wayne, the building inspector, will have a copy of all the engineering plans and our plans, and then we'll apply for the building permit. And at that point, we have not gotten the official okay from Stratford to proceed, and that they have no issues with us restoring the cupola. So as of 4:30 today, there was not a response as to whether or not they gave a blessing to go ahead. So we really, the cupola part's at a standstill, and still we ask Stratford to sign off on it. But once they do, we have everything in place to move ahead real quick and put that together and get it up. Our goal is to do it within 6 weeks time span, I would imagine, before the season ends. Any questions on the cupola as far as that part goes?
But obviously, they just said that one sentence, and I don't know how it would pose a structural and maintenance, but they probably just don't want it, so they're gonna say they don't want it, and if they don't want it, it's not gonna go there.
I didn't hear the last one.
Well, there's no sense in me pursuing, looking for a bell,
Yeah.
if they're gonna,
Correct.
if they don't want it, so.
Our quest to put a bell in there of any type or anything is pretty much at an end because they're asking us not to put one in there. So we still, again, going with the main cupola part to restore the skyline, we still can, if we get their sign off, can proceed with that. So are there any questions as far as that part goes? Anybody?
They're still gonna design that, because if something happens that they do not get the funding in years to come, and the town still owns it, or maybe another developer comes in, is there still a way to put the bell in there?
Depend on the size.
The same size as it was in there?
Not with going through with what we went through to take it down. The whole reason we took it down was because of the size of the window, which actually, I said it was a 28, it's really a 27-inch span, that window size, and the bell was actually 33 and a half.
So it'd have to be a bell smaller than like, that can slide in and out like we did with Rogers.
It's not even worth bothering with.
Unless at that point, they don't-
Is it possible that when Chief is building or rebuilding the cupola, that there's a way to take one of those windows out and make a bigger opening.
With the structural engineering, it's something we can ask them, doesn't hurt to ask, and see what the engineer says.
Basically being designed to look like the original cupola.
It'll be the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Exact same thing.
It's the original cupola going back up.
The only difference is we can figure maybe 3 or 4 inches shorter, because, you know, the legs obviously have to be seen together. They'll be using the 1-inch rods again, as we did previously. But we can certainly ask engineering if they can build one window, maybe a little bit wider, something like that at this point.
Excuse me. I'm all set. It's just irritation.
Any questions on the cupola?
Yeah, you would, appeared at the NFIA inquiring about the, weather vane, was there any decision made on that? Or
That's the next topic.
You're good?
Jumping right into it.
the segue?
So as far as the cupola goes, like I said, we have all the plans put together. When we get close to the date, and as soon as we get Stratford, that's the holdup. I shouldn't say holdup, that's the key to see how fast we can move. But Keith is ready to move as soon as we get it. But moving into the weather vane for the cupola, I know I had gone to the NFIA meeting as I didn't realize the time of their meeting was at the end. I showed up unexpectedly and asked to be on their agenda to discuss the weather vane. Obviously, the weather vane, which is, it's town property, of course, it was with the building when it was put up, the cupola. The NFIA back in, I believe they said the 90s or so, they took it down and repaired it. And right now, the cupola, the weather vane is in storage in a town facility. And the question posed was, is there any input from the NFIA regarding the weather vane, whether they would have any interest in seeing it return on top of the cupola or not? Since they were involved with it at the time, there was a question posed to them, and of course, from that, it would be brought back to this committee to discuss. And from the NFIA meeting, which was just again, when, if anybody wishes for the email, the question was, hi Doug, thank you for coming out to the NFIA to discuss the weather vane that once sat on the roof of Oxford. It is the opinion of approximately 15 members present, with the majority of them stating that they did not want the weather vane to come back in the cupola, the Oxford School with the cupola in the future. We prefer to see it in the town stand and perhaps on loan to the Historical Committee or Academy building. Thank you, Recording Secretary for the NFIA.
Historical Commission, I believe.
Right, it said, it should have been Commissioner decision.
It should be the commission.
Right. You want a copy of the email?
Who is gonna take, the historical commission's gonna take responsibility for it?
Well, right now,
And
it's still under, it's sitting in town property, there's nobody really has anything, I should say, direct control other than the town itself. So whether or not, if there's some plans to do with it, that's something that can be brought forward and ask the town administrator for his approval, or what the plan should be. So the weather vane itself does need repair, there's no question about it, and it is, you know, the seams are split, so if it was to, as far as our committee has to decide and vote whether or not we would want to proceed and go and put the weather vane up with the cupola. We had some input from the NFIA, and now it's the decision for us to make a vote on that.
well, if it's not gonna go up on the building, then somebody should do something with it rather than just sit in the library for another 15 years and then get lost. Why don't we make a decision that it goes to the historical commission, if that's where we want it to go, and let them be responsible for it, to do something with it.
We did
Make
know,
that recommendation.
there was one question as to whether we use it in our permanent structure somehow. We didn't know if it could be, as we configure something for the safety if we go outside of the building, to put it on top of that. So we've been sort of waiting to see what our plans, and if that would fit into it. And then, in the meantime, if we wanna do something with it, or see if the Academy building wants to put it up and store in their building somewhere, it's really, it's an open point. Our whole process was to decide whether do we wanna proceed and put it back in the cupola. So that's our premise of why this is brought up.
Yeah, but what is the plan? In other words, you've already got a vote from NFIA.
Yeah.
Who actually makes the decision? Obviously, if you write to Stratford, they're not gonna want it up on there because there's gonna be more maintenance for them to take care of.
Well, that's what we're gonna decide. Do we wanna proceed and do we wanna proceed to follow the possibility of putting the weather vane back in the cupola, or do we wish to say, listen, we're not gonna go there and it's not going on?
I would think you're just saying, because it's, right now, it'd be the responsibility of the Board of Selectmen, and let them decide, you know, but that's not even in our area. We're with the Bell, nothing to do with the weather vane, and just, like you say, just bring it up to them and let them determine if it's gonna go to the Historical Commission, because they probably don't even realize where it is for the select board, you know.
We're looking to make a recommendation to the selectmen, because we're the ones who are actually dealing with the cupola, and that would be something we would have to deal with. So we would make the recommendation to the selectmen, either we want to see the weather vane go back, or based on the input from others and those involved, that we do not wish to pursue that, and then the selectmen, or I should say Mr. Reed, would decide what they want to do.
Just a question, with the time frame you have, I'm not sure what your time frame is for putting the cupola up.
Yeah.
Are you trying to proceed before the weather, the winter?
You know,
Because to put the weather vane on is gonna take some repair. As was mentioned before, there really is no budget, and that's a copper weather vane. I don't think you're gonna turn that over in a week or two. You gotta find somebody who can do it, you gotta spend the money and then put it up there, and then it just, whatever happens to it. If you don't put it up, you have a town historical artifact that controlled by the selectmen. They can put it under the auspices of the historical commission. It can be determined to be a historical artifact and be covered by CPC funding, should you want to repair it for future use on a display, or if you want to just leave it under the historical commission auspices, and they can display it in, say, the Academy building as a 100 and some odd year old artifact of the town, much like they have that's not this. Some of the things in the Academy building are owned by the town, I believe. I don't think anything there is.
No.
whatever happens to the weather
No.
vane, what's that? I'm sorry?
Al said no.
I said no to his question.
Well,
His
with the
answer.
statement,
The thing of it is, I don't know how much, John, through you, sir, to John, how much is it gonna cost to have that weather vane repaired? Do you have any idea at all?
I don't know, it all depends on if you're gonna repair it to put it back on the building, that's a whole different story.
Forget that.
But if you
Just-
wanna put it in the Academy building on display, you really don't even have to repair it.
I wouldn't.
You can leave it just the way that it is. And
Well-
mount it so that it is what it is, with pictures of what it looked like originally.
To make it simple, then why don't we look at it in another point of view? The Historical Society will accept it on loan from the town, and it can be stored there. And if you give it to the Historical Commission, they have no place to display it. This way here, it can, as you say, be on display in the museum.
Well, I think that's the idea, to put it in a museum, you just put it as a permanent.
And that would solve the whole problem.
Well, let's get back to our original thing, which is, does this committee recommendation what does this committee wish to recommend to Mr. Reese and the selectmen regarding the weather vane? Do we want to make a motion, someone that we wish to not pursue putting the weather vane back on the cupola, or we wish to pursue putting the weather vane? And that will be our recommendation to them. Now, if they wish, and whatever happened to that, I'm not gonna bother guessing what anybody's gonna do. This is what we're asking right now. Recommendation, what does this committee wanna recommend as far as the weather vane?
I recommend exactly what I was just saying, that the town should take ownership of it and put it on loan to the Historical Society, and it be under the ownership of the town.
It's already under the ownership of the town owns it.
Well, it'd be put on display.
We're just asking, I'm asking this committee, the question is, do we wish to pursue a recommendation to restore the weather vane to the cupola? Yes or no?
No.
So somebody make a motion that we do not,
I'll make a motion that we,
do not wish to recommend to the selectmen to return the weather vane to the cupola.
that's the motion.
That's the motion.
Yeah.
Do we hear a second on that?
Second.
We have a motion made second. Any discussion on that? All in favor? Anybody opposed? All right, so that passes. So the weather vane will recommend does not go to the town. Now, whether or not the town wants to do, if the Historical Society wishes to write a letter to the selectmen or Mr. Reese asking them to put it on display in the Academy building, that is something the Historical Society can take up. But the weather vane is not our responsibility at this point. Sound good?
I'll recommend that at the next meeting,
Well,
at the Historical Society meeting,
Okay.
to write a letter recommending that it be displayed at the Academy.
I think that'd be a great location and let people would see it.
I think that the selectmen should make that decision whether it goes to the commission or the society.
I do too.
And
Right.
be done with it.
That's
Yeah.
what they-
That's their function, that's not ours.
All they,
Yeah.
right, we're done with the weather vane.
Yeah.
The weather vane's off our plate. If the Historical Society wishes to ask them, that's their choice. Whatever the selectmen wish to say to them, that's their choice. So we're done with the weather vane. Off our plate, okay? Sound good?
Yes.
Okay. Any unexpected business, does anybody have anything?
What was it?
Any unexpected business not reasonably expected within 24 hours? I actually do, but the question I just got in the email regarding CPC funding, the deadline is coming up for, I believe, November 3rd or 7th,
Fourth.
or 4th, one of the days coming up. We're gonna have to apply or see if we can apply for some type of funding to get the bell cleaned and try to get it restored at least so it's not continually a deterioration at this point. So they're just bringing this up because they just got this, but what is the input or feeling as far as we're looking at? We'll have to navigate through the whole CPC process, which I'm sure there's many familiar with that will help us. But we will have to apply because it's not a matter of $500 clean the 200-odd-year-old bell. We're looking anywhere, could run up 10,000, 16,000. I mean, you're talking some big numbers. Worst case scenario, but you're still talking a good chunk of change, which we can't get through fundraising or have enough people willing to, proper people to provide the services to do that. So I want to see about pursuing some type of application for CPC funding to restore the bell to its condition and clean it up, because it has to, something has to be done with that aspect of it so it doesn't continue to deteriorate or eat away at the bronze.
When you apply for that application, do you have to tell them what you're gonna do with the bell once it's cleaned? You have some sort of plan, or are they just gonna give you that kind of money to clean it and stir it forever?
That's what the process is, something that I cannot give you an answer to that because I don't know the entire process. I'm going to be put out, I've not gone through a CPC process.
Well, I've seen the workings of the CPC on occasion, and in the narrative on an application, it's helpful to explain, you know, what you want done and, you know, what you expect in the future. You know, something like this, you would probably wanna explain that you're gonna do a display eventually. You know, some projects are self-explanatory, when you do the sidewalks and they're done, they're done. But something like this, you're cleaning it, a bell, are you gonna put it back in the box and put it in the BPW? Somebody might ask that question, and you better have an answer. The other thing I would say is that for the application, it would have to come probably from a town person like either Reese or the selectmen, because they have ownership of it. Or they have control of it, that's their bell.
I just wonder if this committee can actually do that, to request CPC funds. It may have to be,
The town would have to.
the town would have to do that,
Yeah.
maybe under the historical commission, because of.
Well, the historical commission could do it also.
Yeah,
Anybody in the town could do it. What I'm asking is.
Well,
I don't know whether legally you can do it though, that's the thing.
Yeah, I mean, it falls under historical restoration,
Yeah,
but the person who has control of the bell, or the group of people, are the ones that have to apply for it.
Right. Whether it is
The
us.
historical, just to go a little further, the historical commission routinely requests money for some of the projects on like the academy building, because the selectmen have given them the authority to
right.
be the governing, you know, the keeper of those buildings, you know, Academy Building, Fort Phoenix, a few fire station, a few other buildings. They have been designated as the keeper. The Bell has not got that designation yet, and it has not got the designation of a historical artifact for the town. It's something that the commission says, hey, we find this bell to be historically significant to the history of the town. I don't think that's gonna get many questions, it's gonna go through.
Right.
But it still has to, it's a process that has to be done.
Right. Whether it is our committee's able to do it, we have to at least begin the process of somebody in the town, whether it's Mr. Reese or the selectmen, to do the process on our behalf if we can. They're not gonna just do it on their own, because they're gonna look, we're gonna do the legwork, present it to them, and then they'll decide whether they wanna pursue it or present it for the.
Jeff
funding.
Osuch used to always present
Correct.
for the selectmen.
Correct. So we have to ourselves come to, you know, decide whether or not we wish to stop that legwork to apply for some funding. One is a major issue, is the cleaning aspect. Our initial goal was to have it clean. Keith Silvio was gonna build the whole cradle, the base and everything, get it at least displayed temporarily while we work on a permanent structure. So that was the initial plans of what we were trying to do. At least it's clean on display in a cradle and people could see it. And then we would go further to say, this is what our final plans are, and that's gonna cost some money too. We're not gonna be allowed to do it all at once. It's gonna be a time-consuming, long-term process. So the initial part is we're looking to have it clean, have a cradle built, and somehow work with, whether it's with Wayne on the town side and Mr. Reese to see if somewhere in the town hall it can even be displayed. We can't display it the way it is because it's just not presentable. And it's not clean, it's still full of bird droppings, everything. So that's the process of goal, which my idea of what we would be looking at. Now, it's a committee decision. What do you all think?
Sounds like a plan.
Anybody?
Make a motion that we send a letter to Mark Reese or the selectmen to go forward with the CPC funding.
Second it.
Motion made second. Anybody, any further discussion? Do we have a specific amount? I guess we'll have to wait.
You have to get bids.
Bids.
You have to get estimates, not bids, but you have to get estimates. I think they require or ask for three estimates.
But something,
Some of those things, you don't always get three estimates because of the nature of the business. You know, some things might only be one person in New England that does a project like that, I don't know. I'm sure you'll find somebody who wanna just sandblast it perfectly, so give you an estimate on that. But, the thing you really have to do is, on your estimate, is be very, very specific as to what you want done, so that when people are bidding it or estimating it, they're very clear that everybody's apples to apples, because very often, if there's big discrepancies in the estimates, it looks kind of fishy to the CPC committee, and sometimes they.
So we have a motion made and seconded to proceed asking the town, somebody on the town side to, through us in our legwork, present to them paperwork for CPC funding. All in favor? Anybody opposed?
Yeah, I just don't think it's our responsibility to do that.
To do CPC funding?
Yeah, I think, I just don't.
Well, the motion passes, so
Yeah.
that will move ahead, but, I mean, how are we gonna get it cleaned, or how are we gonna get it displayed, if we're not, where are we gonna come up with those funds?
Good question.
No, I
we
mean,
have
just,
to move on now, because that's not gonna put the bid.
oh, no, but I wanted to just try to get where.
I don't know the answer, but.
Okay, so we have nothing else on this, select next meeting date. Look at calendars, everybody. Anybody have preferences? We're looking at November. We generally do Thursdays, but that's certainly open as far as whatever anybody's pleasure is as far as the dates. Anybody?
Yeah,
How about the 3rd of November? Well, we might need it, because once we start moving ahead on that cupola, it'd be nice to get the cupola up as soon as possible. So, November 3rd would be pretty much in the middle
Anybody else?
of the season.
Any other preferences, date, November 3rd, then, November 3rd, 6:30. That's it, the motion adjourned?
Second.
Okay, we're done. Thank you.